Welcome to another week of Soccer Down Here. Hopefully everyone's 4th of July was what you wished it was. If it was loud and boisterous, Mother Nature aided or otherwise, or if it was quiet, reserved, if you were part of the 45,000 plus that did the 10K throughout the main section of Atlanta, working your way down Peachtree Street, much like the boss. Congratulations to you. Hopefully the body has recovered in an appropriate manner. And it is now another week of Soccer Down Here. John here, Jarrett there. And kind of what we'll do today is go through everything that happened over the weekend in Major League Soccer, talk about Atlanta United, talk about the twos a little bit. A couple of folks do have some questions. Tafka's in and discussing the national team. And Michael Head has questions about the upcoming weekend. Speaking about the upcoming weekend, Danny Pereira and Kip Keller will not be a part of Austin FC's sojourn to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Hopefully, for the sake of a lot of folks, maybe we'll get to see Matthew McConaughey. Who knows? But that's just a thought. But before we get things rolling on this particular week of Soccer Down Here, time for the opening kickoff. The morning kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And please follow them on all of their social media platforms and all of their IDs, whether it is Twitter, it is Facebook, or it is Instagram at Kickoff Coffee CO. Once again, reminder, thanks to everybody who has been a part of what Kickoff Coffee has decided that they want to do. Use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off of your purchase when it comes to everything at Kickoff Coffee. But remember, 10% of the proceeds go to help out youth programs and the development of youth soccer. So thanks to everyone who has been investing in Kickoff Coffee and in youth soccer as well. Kickoff Coffee CO, and the @ goes in front of kickoffcoffee.co. And since it is a Tuesday thoughts for the kickoff and the morning kickoff and the opening kickoff, I yield the floor to Jarrett Smith.
We talk a lot of time about teams having balls, about teams having cojones to be able to go handle a situation that's tough. And there's a lot of things you can say, I think, about Atlanta United in the year of our Lord 2022. The mental lapses that have led to goals, the letdowns, the performances that, you're disappointed by. The one thing I don't think you can say is they don't have guts and they don't play hard. This really aggravated me when it was a talking point early in the season where people talked about them having fight. And it was very annoying because you watch them play and them boys got fight. That's not the problem. Are they making mental mistakes sometimes? Yep. Are they making, they're making the wrong choice sometimes? Yep. But to argue that they don't have fight, no, they definitely have that part, because I promise you it would be a lot worse if they didn't have fight than it already is. We were outside the playoff picture and looking at a really rough stretch. Because it's bad enough to have been up at Red Bull Arena to score your first goal there, to be feeling like, hey man, not only did we score a goal at Red Bull Arena, we're 10 minutes away from 3 points, and then to get nothing out of it because 17-year-old or 16-year-old Caleb Wiley makes a mistake in a big moment and commits the foul that leads to a penalty. And then you get a goal going, where Alex DeJohn just switches his brain off. On the back of the Toronto match, where Brooks Lennon has to literally be carried off the field, that's another injury. And then you have the Red Bull match. And then on top of that, actually, we're forgetting something. And then to have Emerson Hyndman miss the match in New York City because of a tight quad or tight hamstring, whatever it may be, to put all of that on your plate and still find enough. And I don't really give a damn if New York City is struggling, because any port in a storm, and again, we've said this before, no one feels sorry for you when you're struggling. Other teams don't feel sorry for you. No one feels sorry for Atlanta United when they're struggling and hurt. No one's going to feel sorry for New York City. They still got 2 goals from Tati Castellanos. But the fact that you're able to fight back from a deficit twice to find a point. And yeah, it's a great ball to Joseph that he heads it across. And then you do one of the most dangerous things we've talked about in this game, which is having that let up. You get that tying goal and then you have to let up and give up a goal 60 seconds after that. Not the first or last team to do that. Always one of the most infuriating things your team can do. But then to find that late goal through Dom Dwyer, who has been a revelation, embracing that role of you're not the starting nine anymore. That's okay, because you can come in late into games and change the attitude and scrap and claw and find that late equalizer. There have been a lot of games this year where I've thought, hey, they got a late draw. Maybe that'll propel them, like the game in Nashville, where you get the late draw through Dom Dwyer again. I thought, okay, that's something they can build on. And they haven't been able to build on it consistently. And I don't know if they're going to be able to build on this one consistently. Austin's going to be a weird challenge. Austin is a team that likes to shoot itself in the foot and then make dramatic comebacks. We'll get into that this week, John, but Austin, for all of that, like, I think they've been behind by multiple goals 4 or 5 times this year, and they have not lost any of those games. It's a good story. It's very entertaining when you're watching it as a neutral. It's not really a sustainable model in the same way that, like, the Cardiac Cats of 2015 Orlando, that's not a sustainable model. It makes for great entertainment. It's a great story. It's great fight from them as we bring it back to fight. That's not a sustainable model. I want to see if Austin can actually get out in front of teams. But the fact with all those things going against you, the way your last week plus had gone, that you found fight enough to get a point in Yankee Stadium, which is one of the most embarrassing venues in this country, that you have a first division team still playing on a bandbox baseball field. It's not good enough for CONCACAF. It's not good enough for FIFA. It's good enough for MLS. Gonzalo Pineda was critical of not even just the dimensions, but the actual surface itself. The fact that you're able to pull that off there and one of the more unique home field advantages, like I said, I don't know if they're able to build off of this, but I'm impressed with the fight. And I'm impressed that even if this season continues to spiral out of the playoffs and they don't make the playoffs, damn, at least they're going to go down throwing punches, because there are worse ways to go down. John?
In a bandbox, no doubt about it. And, we got to catch up with Michael Parkhurst for our Beyond Goals Friday Free Kick segment back on Friday. And I would suggest folks, now that hindsight is what it is, I got to catch up with Parky about what it's like playing against a team that is the system of Red Bulls and playing against a team that plays in that stadium, meaning Yankee Stadium, like NYC. And we got into the mental aspect of it, where it ain't 70 wide. Let's just face it. It's not. And I think Peter Vermes had actually walked it off, and I think that he had said generously that it was 67. And I think it's 20% less regulation size. That's a number that sticks in my head somewhere. And the notion that you've got to be that much more attuned, that much more locked into a situation at NYC where literally transitions happen on the drop of a dime, and you've got to be ready. And the game is, it's almost like the no holds barred match, using our Monday Night Raw reference here. And well done, Kevin Patrick, by the way, for being in the middle of it all. But a no holds barred match like they had last night, where Asuka is coming to the ring with a garbage can and Becky Lynch is bringing chairs. You're bringing all of this stuff in to start with. This is what you have going in. The match hasn't started, and you know that this is what the two combatants are going to be facing here. And you have to be that much more locked in from the absolute beginning when you're playing in a place like that. You have to be ready, and reactions have to be almost faster than instantaneous, if that makes any sense. And it's a very odd place to play. NYC has adapted to it. They understand that this is our place, and they turn it into that home field advantage that's theirs, even though it is an embarrassment to play on, but it's their embarrassment and they've adjusted to it. And it is your job going in to adjust to it when the other guy's already there. So you mentioned fight in the opening kickoff, and going in it's going to be a fight, but because things are amplified because of the resources around you, I just, after a match like this, Jarrett, I wonder about how more drained you are physically, mentally, what have you, than you would be in a normal circumstance. And I think that odds are that once that match was over and the guys were in the locker room, you just had guys that didn't want to say anything and they're just quiet and they want to sit and they just want to be for a little bit because of how strained that location is. And to come out of it, you're down 1-0, and Thiago Almada shows you why he's here with the pass to Joseph, and Joseph puts it past Sean Johnson. You're down 2-1, and you come back once again with Dom Dwyer. And Dwyer's numbers, just so they're out here. You mentioned Dom Dwyer embracing a role, Jarrett. Dom Dwyer, 11 games played, 233 minutes, 4 goals. He is tied for second on the team in goals. But from that spot, from that center forward position, Cisneros, Joseph, Dom Dwyer, you have 13 goals from that center forward position this season. From that point of the spear, 13 goals from that spot. Dom Dwyer averaging a goal, 4 into 233. You're having me do math here. It's not quite. That's a goal every 58 minutes or so. To get that from someone who has embraced his role from the absolute beginning, and I think that I think it's safe to say that Atlanta United fans have, while they've understood at one point that he did wear the purple jersey, he is definitely one of their own. And seeing Dom Dwyer embrace the role that he has, it's been really cool to see. And you were looking for something from Dom Dwyer, and you've gotten it so far this year in 11 matches, where he has got you 4 goals, tied for second on the team in goals so far this season. So a lot of different things to carry from it, from the NYCFC match. And I think that, and I got into it a bit on Salty, and we'll get into the twos as well, since I didn't get the chance to catch up with you for twos review for the draw with El Paso. But I think that you look at Aiden McFadden once again and see how he was pressed into service and has been pressed into service since the Toronto match, where now I think that we all know going forward that rubber mats are dangerous and we should have nothing to do with them anywhere close to your playing surface. But I think that you can talk about Caleb Wiley. You can talk about Aiden McFadden. You can talk about all of these guys that have been put into these situations like a Dom Dwyer, and you're continuing to get results from these guys. Amar Sejdic putting in minutes as well. So it's guys that are not your number 1 and your number 2. It's your 3s and your 4s. And Jarrett, they're giving you the results that you were not anticipating from them in the first place. They're pushed into these duties, and they're performing as best they can. And Atlanta United's still getting results out of this.
It's weird the way they put this together in this game, because, yeah, Caleb Wiley put together one of the better performances you'll see from like a young player around the league this week. Not just Atlanta, around the league. In a weird situation, Caleb Wiley is continuing to rise to the occasion. He is going to be a problem in this league for a while. I don't know how long that while is, because I would imagine they're going to start getting phone calls, if they haven't already, that are not just exploratory phone calls, but are phone calls with numbers attached to them, because Caleb Wiley cannot register to vote yet. And he is out there just putting together great performances. I thought this was one of the first ones we saw Aiden McFadden kind of struggle. It wasn't bad, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying McFadden was a bomb scare. But I thought there were moments where he struggled. It's tough. It's tough to stay locked in that hard for the entire game, when, on that weird surface, being forced into duty to be that guy for the first team, because again, you are missing so many bodies that you've asked Aiden McFadden to do a job, and I think he's done it really well. Has it been perfect? Not really. Room for improvement for sure, but I promise you it could have been a lot worse, and he has done the job admirably. Even like making the change where you brought him a Chope Chol
at a right back
in a really weird situation, I was really impressed. And it's that thing where, you're all hands on deck, and you told him, I need you to go out here and do a job, and he went out and did it. And sometimes it's that simple, and it sounds simple to say, but it's not necessarily simple to execute. Of I need you to go out here and do a job. What about nope? I need you to go out here and do A and B.
Yeah.
I don't need you to worry about C or D. I need you to go do A and B. But I thought Joe did that. Wasn't a man of the match performance. I don't care. Joe hasn't been on the field in a while, and you forced him into a unique situation, and he handled it. Joseph looks more like Joseph, which is great. I want to see how George Campbell responds to this one, because if you look at the numbers, it punched a pretty decent game,
Mm-hmm.
but there's still stuff you want to see get better. The disorganization on the second goal will give you nightmares. Communication on the first one with he and Alan Franco about who was supposed to step, who was supposed to grab. Dati, it's got to be better. I mean, so by the numbers, it wasn't terrible, but by the eye test, there's stuff you still want to see improve. But I mean, it's you got enough out of guys. And sometimes you're going to need that, like in Austin or in Atlanta against Austin next week. I want to see what they do with a week off to kind of refresh their brains a bit, because now what you're dealing with is a situation with, okay, we got that emotional game out of the way against New York. We have time to rest. Austin has time to rest, but they have to travel to us, but we have to travel back home. So everybody really has to travel. But it's in your venue. Every game, it feels like, for Austin is an emotional roller coaster. And I want to see how both teams handle that when the time comes, because both of them are going to capable of running off that emotion. And if Mercedes-Benz can get rocking early, then Atlanta can really start a downhill. But Austin kind of feeds off that, so I'll be very interested. This game will be interesting to see and interesting to break down coming into it. But yeah, as far as New York City goes, hey, you found a way to get a draw on the road. Like I said, it's even if the season continues down this path, which given the injuries and given kind of getting behind the eight ball, it might be the case. I don't know. I can't see into the future. If I could, I'd be placing prop bets every day.
There you
go. If that's how it goes down the road, I can sleep a little bit better knowing that they're going to fight the whole way through,
right.
And not lay down and have some games where you've seen a couple of games this year where teams just didn't have that fight in them. Not necessarily against Atlanta, but around the league, you've seen a couple where teams just did not have that fight. You're like, well, that's not great.
No, and you mentioned Austin. Austin was down 2-0 to Colorado last night, and at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, came back, stormed back, and won 3-2, by the way, as a plus 330 on the road. Just a couple of other numbers, since you mentioned some players doing things. Gonzalo Pineda asked Marcelino Moreno to do things that were atypical, and he performed what he was asked to do, and you saw the end result. Aiden McFadden, by the way, courtesy of our friends at SofaScore, 3 clearances, a tackle, 5 of 7 on his duels, 2 for 3 on the ground, 3 for 4 in the air. Once again, not necessarily a surprise. Those who've seen his work with Atlanta United too know what Aiden McFadden can give you in the air, and it was another example of that in New York City. 66% on his passing, 21 of 32, and I'm one of those folks, Jarrett, that will sit there and look at passing numbers in the Bronx and just kind of throw them out the window because it is such an atypical location. I'm not going to get bent out of shape if numbers are, frankly, bent out of shape. 51 touches for Aiden McFadden, 1 key pass, 3 for 5 on long balls for McFadden, and also 1 for 2 on dribbles. And since you mentioned George Campbell, who had a higher SofaScore rating than Aiden McFadden because of the yellow card McFadden received. 7 clearances for George Campbell on the day, a block, an interception, 2 tackles, 2 for 3 on the ground duels, lost his only duel in the air. 88% passing for George Campbell, 43 of 49 on 66 touches, 5 of 7 on long balls. So those are the numbers from George Campbell on the day as well. And since you went ahead and cut the twos review, now that you've had the chance to put the twos review to bed, and sit back and kind of think about things in the 2-2 draw with El Paso, what comes to mind that is still circling in your brain after I know Atlanta United too was looking for 3 points, and they had a lead starting the 17th minute, and they hung on to it until the 90th when you had a set piece just kiss off of the inside of the post for a 2-2 draw. But when you look at the twos, what else comes to mind?
It was an interesting conversation with Jack Collison about it because it's where he wants to be. It's where he wants his team to be, in that they were disappointed to not get the result against a really good team. You know, you want that emotion to be, why are you upset? I'm upset because we should have beat one of the better teams in the West. That's not a bad place to be. Now you want to clean that up. They were really under duress for the last 15, 20 minutes in that game. You really want to be able to clean that up and tighten it down, get a foot on the ball, and try and, take some of the air out of it so that El Paso can't lean on you. But you also created a game, honestly, that could have ended 4-4 or 5-5. Vicente Reyes was fantastic in goal. Not much he can do about either goal. The first one is a recycled ball set piece. It's kind of blindly shot into the box, goes off an Atlanta player, falls to an El Paso player, he taps it in. The second one is that free kick, and I got to look at it again because he's kind of behind his wall, and I think he was expecting the shot to try and go upper 90 to his left-hand post, and instead it goes, hard, driven ball low to the right side, kisses the inside of the post and kicks in. It's a tough draw for them. Tristan Traeger is very much that dude. At this point, Tristan Traeger is almost hilarious because he has scored 5 goals in the last 3 games.
Yeah,
the partnership with Jackson Conway has been really good because Jackson Conway does a lot of thankless work. Jackson Conway also had 2 goals against Charleston. Should have had a goal or 2 against El Paso. The header, at one point you flip Mejia around. Mejia's been playing right wing back for the twos in the 3-man back line. You flipped him around to play left wing back when you took Highmar off, and he put a ball into Conway on his head that Conway flicks behind him and almost blindly flick. He knows where the goal. It's not a blind, like just guessing. Almost blindly flicks it back into the corner, and it just maybe kisses the outside of the post on the way by. Keeper wouldn't have been able to do anything about it. It was really nicely worked. He also had an opportunity before that where he drags a shot wide that shooter's going to shoot. Your strikers are going to take those shots. I replayed that one in my head a few times because he had David Mejia cutting in on the right on a diagonal run where if he plays it to in front of Mejia just taps it in. Yeah. Instead, he pulls the trigger, goes to left corner, and he may have kissed the outside of the post on that one. So he almost had 2 goals as well. Durham Mateus looks more like the Darwin of 2021. This what they found in the attack is really impressive. Grant Howard, Jack Collison called Grant Howard maybe one of their best success stories of the year.
Yeah,
he's been absolutely fantastic because early in the season when Grant Howard was getting games, it looked like a guy who the game was too fast for him at that level. And as he leaves, there are still mistakes because he's 17 years old. He's going off to college, but he looked really good. His growth has been really fun to watch, and I want to see, what he's able to build on that when he goes to Virginia Tech. Andy Solon's going off to Virginia. It's a good performance, and their play actually tomorrow night. Birmingham comes to town for what should be a street fight.
Mm-hmm. That is true. Courtesy of our friends at SofaScore, both Tristan Traeger, Robbie Mertz punched in 8.3. Here's Mertz's numbers, just for the record. 53 touches, 1 incompletion on 32 passes. 31 of 32 on the day, 97%. 2 key passes, 4 of 5 on his long balls, 2 big chances created, the 2 Traeger goals. 2 for 2 on his dribbles, 6 of 9 in his ground duels. 1 is 1 duel in the air. So 7 for 10 on duels on the day. Fouled 3 times, 2 clearances, 2 interceptions, a tackle, and a dribble, and a successful dribble. So Grant Howard, to put a bow on Grant Howard's time with the twos, 3 clearances on the day, 2 interceptions, 3 tackles, 5 of 7 on his ground duels. 19 of 29 passing on 47 touches, 3 for 9 on long balls, and 2 for 4 on dribbles. So it was, can't wait to see what goes with Sullins, Prince, and Grant Howard at the next level. But it will be interesting with Birmingham coming to town in the midweek for blood feud, and it's going to be interesting. And so we're going to catch up. I'm going to catch up with Kaylor Hodges a little later today to talk about Atlanta United 2 and the rivalry with Birmingham on the Hammer Down podcast. So we'll catch up with Kaylor, and we'll keep an eye, and we'll let you know where that is on all of your favorite podcatchers. A 20-minute warning. And I wanted to get back into what happened in Major League Soccer over the weekend before we get into the question from Tafka and the question from Michael Head about Atlanta United on the weekend. And it was a moment again, where Pro decided to, I don't know, and that's the best way that I can describe it. Late foul in the RSL Minnesota United match by Eric Holt, and it's in the highlight package. So if I don't describe it well enough, then you can go to Major League Soccer on YouTube and you can see what we're talking about. It was in the 90th minute. Eric Holt defending against Emmanuel Reynoso. And Eric Holt, sure as you know, decides that he's going to elbow Emmanuel Reynoso in the back of the head. This is quoting Adrian Heath after the match. I didn't see, but from what I'm led to believe, the guy led with his elbow, and certainly Ray, meaning Emmanuel Reynoso, has got a big bump on his head, so he's obviously caught it. I can't comment on that particular incident. Jarrett, you and I have seen the particular incident. And
Adrian Heath ain't wrong, man. That's Jesus. I mean, it was positively embarrassing. Thank God Minnesota survived. Because if RSL had scored a tying goal, which granted had been funny in the context of, hey, Minnesota blew a 3-0 lead because they damn near blew a 3-0 lead. Good for them. They've won 2 in a row. Neither of them have been comfortable. They are an incredibly entertaining team to watch as a neutral because they are capable of imploding at any given moment. Thank God RSL didn't score though, because that would have been another black eye for Pro. Not that Pro cares. They don't really care. Because if they cared, they would do something about it, other than keep handing assignments to these referees. A lot of times handing the wrong games to the wrong referees, like Joe Dickerson gets involved in another game where he doesn't manage it well. Whoop-de-doo. I mean, quit looking at that matchup going, wow, that's going to be a tough one to match up because of the styles. We should give that to Joe Dickerson.
Yes.
Maybe don't. But yeah, thank God RSL did not score, because it would have just been another black eye on what it was. If y'all haven't seen it yet, I mean, he's on Reynoso's back. He takes that elbow and he just short, quick elbow into the back of Reynoso's head. Never even bothers to play the ball. Has him lined up. It's absolutely a red card offense. The fact that you went yellow, went to VAR and looked at it, and still didn't send him off is absolutely embarrassing. It's embarrassing for player safety too, because you want guys like Reynoso to come to MLS who are insanely fun. Azella Ryan, Marcelino, Barco when he was here, guys who can create those moments. You can't let people cheap shot them, because you can't just have guys come here and say, hey, welcome, come to MLS. Also, we're not going to protect you. Like, guys are going to take cheap shots at you, and we're just going to be fine with that. But if you go down easy, trust me, we'll fine you for simulation. It was absolutely unacceptable.
And for the record, in that match, your crew was Remy Touchon was the man in the middle, and your VAR was Soren Stoichka. Your AVAR was Craig Lowry, just to give you the heads up on Minnesota United and RSL. And the Joe Dickerson reference, once again, coming from the Colorado-Austin match, where Jorge Gonzalez was your VAR, Joe Dickerson with his crew. And, once again, you are... I'm waiting for the Friday news dump again. It's something that I have now trained myself for.
Friday or Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Either just like, here's the update from this week.
Yeah, here's your oopsie update, and they just bury it. And it is an absolute pro news dump. And what I mean by news dump, it's a television term where basically, if an entity or a business or an individual wants to give you bad news, what you do is you bury it after the close of business on the day of the week, like Friday when everybody's heading out the door and they're in rush hour traffic and their week is done. You sit there and you issue your 2-sentence press release when everybody's in traffic heading home. That's what I mean by a news dump. You bury it after everyone is done in regular business hours for the day. Then you see it happen. And I am now trained, and I think that as a public service, I think everyone should at least have their notifications set to where Friday nights or Friday afternoon late, Saturday mornings, just have your notifications ready and be prepared for these oopsies to come out, so you're not surprised by it when your favorite club comes up and is ready to play, whomever your favorite club is and whatever your situation. Just be prepared for the news dumps in situations like this where Pearl will sit there and go, yeah, or your favorite entity will go, yeah. Just be ready for them these days. So that's your public service announcement for the day. Be ready for the news dumps late Friday afternoon, early Saturday morning, before kickoffs, like noon or 11 o'clock. It's either a brunch news dump or a Friday news dump. Just be ready for those kinds of things. But it's disappointing that I have to do that public service announcement, because you want refereeing to be better. You want administration to be better. But we have to condition ourselves now to be prepared for bad news and for disappointing news to come across the board. And it's disappointing that we have to condition ourselves to be this way.
Yeah, it's very annoying. It's very exhausting, and again, like I said, thank God Minnesota ended up winning that, because everything up until that point is Minnesota's undoing. They jumped out to a 3-0 lead. They looked really good in doing so. Then they went to sleep. Like we said, Minnesota's a great watch as a neutral, because at any given moment, Minnesota's going to drop a little vat of nitroglycerin on the floor of the lab. And if you're at a safe distance, you're going to get to see some fireworks one way or another. But if that had, but that should have absolutely killed the game at that moment. And the fact that it didn't, I was glad to see they hung on and didn't, end up getting punished on the score sheet for that situation, because hopefully, Disco will levy a 1-game suspension for that. They should. We'll see what happens.
Other action on July 4th. How would you best describe Orlando City and DC United?
Orlando City is one of the most schizophrenic teams in the league, because they can go out and play you really tight. Again, they're in the semifinal of the U.S. Open Cup. They had a very dramatic game against Nashville, and then they just got blasted in a drunken mess by a not good DC team. Like, Daxi Fontas is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Daxi Fontas is brilliant. I think he has 9 goals in the year. I believe that puts him right up there with the Golden Boot race. But Orlando is so uneven, it is almost uncomfortable, because you will have games where they'll go out there and they'll play you in your house really tight, and you'll be thinking, wow, this team ain't bad. This is very much and this is after losing Vandervader, going back over to Europe. This is a team that can team that can give you a tough day. They're not the best team in the league, but they can give you a tough day. Then they can go play you like they did against Montreal earlier this year, or like in this game, where you're wondering, like, how do y'all put your shoes on? How did you get your shoes on without picking up a serious injury? But then they woke up halfway through the game, scored a couple goals to make it close against DC, because again, DC not great. Then they let DC build a little bit more of a cushion. Then they tried to come back again. It was like a more extreme version of what Atlanta and Charleston played last week.
Taxi Funtas scores 2 goals, and you're going, okay, yeah, it's 2 goals in the first 8 minutes of the match, not including the amount of actual time it took between goals. Fontas scores in the 5th, and he scores in the 8th to make it 2-0. Then he scores in the 51st to make it 3-0. Facundo Torres scores 6 minutes later to make it 3-1. Cara scores in the 66th to make it 3-2. Smith scores in the 74th to make it 4-2. PK in the 80th makes it 4-3. And then Roberta scores at 90+6 to make it 5-3. So 5-3 final. DC, and of course, I'm fairly certain everyone's going to sit there and look at DC and go, oh, look at DC, they're scoring goals at Taxi Foot. DC still has a lot of problems, folks.
They have a lot of problems, but that doesn't mean you can't enjoy Taxi Fontas, because Taxi Fontas is a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
That's going to be if they can figure out how to, build around that. I want to see who they bring in as their head coach. So the interim right now is the same interim who was there in 2020 before they brought in, Lasada.
Mhm.
If they can build around that, they could be fun. Like, if nothing else, I'll watch them just because Taxi Fontas is a lot of fun, man. They might give up a bunch of goals. Taxi Fontas might get on the score sheet every game at this rate. Who knows? Don't think he's going to challenge Joseph's mark for games with consecutive games with a goal. We still don't talk enough about that, by the way, in 2019, because that was a stupid good run.
Oh, by the way, you're over under at 7.5 for DC and Orlando City, plus 5,000. Plus 5,000 for your over under at 7.5 if you decided to play that.
Well, I wouldn't have told anyone to play it because that feels irresponsible.
It's a public service announcement there, too.
Yeah, that's an irresponsible decision to suggest it.
Also on the board, FC Dallas and Inter Miami 1-1. And late night crazy. And I think that maybe it was just the road catching up with CF Montreal, soon to be Impact.
We talked about this for 20 minutes last week. That's a 2,000-mile trip.
Uh-huh.
Montreal to LA is not a hop, skip, and a jump. Also, Montreal, has played a lot. And they had to go out to LA, who is, again, also a schizophrenic team, and who decided to give up being a schizophrenic team for one night and just start pummeling Montreal into the ground for 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Chicharito scores in the 8th. Dejan Joveljic, what's the chess term that they gave him? The Bishop. So Joveljic, the Bishop, scores, and so keep an eye on this. And I'm sure that Chris Ashley, who is still undefeated after 15 weeks in our fantasy league, has been keeping an eye on the relationship between Joveljic and Chicharito up top. And I think that Greg Vanny has found something there in Los Angeles. Then Raveloson scores in the 60th to make it 3. And then he gets a brace in the 79th to make it 4. And I think that CF Montreal, soon to be Impact, is more than happy to pack up and head home for the first time in probably 9 days for LA, with LA getting a 4-0 win in MLS After Dark, which, of course, does make a lot of sense. And Dallas and Miami, just to run through that one, Alan Velasco scores in the 27th to make it 1-0. And then Leo Campana scores in the 89th to tie it at 1, and that was how that one finished at 1-1. So Dallas had a lead for 62 minutes, couldn't keep it for 63 plus, and so it's a shared result for Dallas and Miami after the weekend. So let's get into the standings here in the Eastern Conference. Red Bulls on top, winners of 3 of 4. They're at 32. Philadelphia's at 30. CF Montreal's at 29 points, ahead of NYC on wins 9-8. NYC with a match in hand. Atlanta with their win, they are at 20 points, 5 points out of a playoff spot right now. But once again, they have a match in hand over most of everyone ahead of them. They have the same number of matches as NYC, matches in hand over everybody else that is right now currently in the playoff picture. 2 matches in hand over Red Bulls. Charlotte's at 23. Miami and Crew are at 22. Atlanta United's at 20. Toronto, who has lost 3 of 4. They are 5-3-10, by the way. 10 losses in 18 matches. They are at 18 points. DC and Chicago. DC with their win, it's up to 17 points. Chicago with their loss. They're at 17 points as well in the Western Conference. LAFC at 36. Austin, who has won 3 of 4. And I know that we're going to talk some Austin as we go later in the week, Jarrett, but for me, I don't know which Austin team I'm going to get, because we know early in the year they put up some big numbers, put up some big wins in beating Miami and Cincinnati, who are not who they were then. They've cooled off with their offense, but then they put up numbers like they did on the road, as they did put 3 on the board in Colorado to get a win, but then they're winning 1-0 against Charlotte, and then they're winning 1-0 against CF Montreal. So I don't know what Austin team, frankly, we're going to get that's going to be on the road. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't either. It's going to be very, like you said, I mean, they're going to be a very interesting matchup, because they are schizophrenic. They do, like I said, they do like to play that chaotic. Hey, things aren't. It's very much the call an ambulance, but not for me.
Yeah.
Of MLS. And I don't know. Again, I don't know how sustainable that is, because it's very fun as a neutral. I would imagine it's very fun if you're Austin, if you're a fan. But it's going to be very hard to live that life when you get to playoff time. For what it's worth, Atlanta's the kind of team you could do that to, though. So, Atlanta's also the kind of team that can get on top of you and put you in that situation if you get sleepwalking in the first 10, 20 minutes of that game. But Austin has a propensity to kind of blow its own foot off at times and then have to dig itself back out. The Orlando game was still my favorite, because Orlando ended up with 2 red cards in that game, and Austin, just Joe Dickerson allowed world-class time wasting. But Austin managed to find the equalizer, but not the game winner.
Mm-hmm.
There's only just it's a very entertaining watch, but sustainability can be an issue when you're trying to do that 4 or 5 times in a row.
Quick piece of news before we get into the 2 questions. The signing is official, at least from our friend Tommy Scoops, Tom Bogert. The Revs have acquired forward Giacomo Vrioni from Juventus, signing the Albanian national team striker to a DP contract through the 2025 season with an additional 1-year option, the club announced on Tuesday. And the numbers that are being released, looks like Jaime Ojeda has it reported at $3.8 million in the transfer plus bonuses with Juve. So the replacement for Adam Buxa is now in the form of Giacomo Vrioni. 2-minute warning. Getting into the questions that we have here on the floor, and the second question probably will take a little longer than the first. Michael Head, any idea if the 2 Liga MX players have the applicable visas, work permits, etc., that would allow them to see the pitch on Saturday? Michael, I think in theory the answer is yes. But when you're talking about Juanjo Porata and you're talking about Raul Godinho, they're going to have to earn their place. I would anticipate that Porata would be playing before Godinho, but once again, this goes through what they see during practice, what they've been seeing on the training pitch when they walked in the door. Would they be ready? I could see Porata, if everything is squared away, on the bench as a part of the 18, and the same for Godinho in the situation. But from what we've seen at the back, with the rhythm that we've seen with Wiley and Campbell and Franco and now Aiden McFadden, it's going to have to be earned. I could see them getting minutes. I could see Porata getting minutes if everything is in line. Wouldn't necessarily see him being thrown into the starting lineup. Jarrett, what do you think?
Yeah, they're going to have to earn those minutes. I don't think you're just instantly going to pull Rocco Rios-Novo. He's in the situation because Bobby Shuttleworth didn't lock down that spot. He had the opportunity. He didn't do it. I think you want to see more from Rocco, but it's going to be on Rocco to lock down that spot. And if he can't do it, then you might see that become an issue. Aside from that, center back feels like a much more immediate area of need
Yeah.
because you need bodies right now. Like again, you have 3 center backs right now without going down and getting a Nelson Orji or a Noah Cobb or Efrain Morales, who I'm still not sold at center back wise. Yeah, I would think center back would be the area you're looking at if you're looking for hey, which of these guys, if you're trying to like lay numbers of which of these guys going to see the field first. I don't think it's going to be the goalkeeper, but that might not be the case. They might be in practice and say, "Hey, we're going to get you. Here's some live fire drills."
Yes. Here's some reps and go. Tafka, with the final question for you and for us before we get into all of the news that's fit to print. We finally are going to the Olympics 2 years in advance of our World Cup. His question: do you try and take as many senior team men's national teams as possible, since they're all mostly eligible, or do you use the Olympics as an opportunity to bring in slightly younger players that haven't reached the senior squad yet, that you Musa or Busio and Bassett, etc.? What do you think?
I think I'm going with as much as I can to get them those game minutes. I got to check and see what tournaments you've got going on at the same time. If there's anything, you're also going to have to try and get these guys away from their club. Any of the MLS ones away from their club teams. I'll be interested to see which ones get pulled away, but I'm going to try and win the Olympics. I don't know about you. I would like to win the Olympics. I would like to dance upon the graves of my enemies.
And hear the lamentation of the women. I believe that is the tail end of our Conan quote that we probably could use in that. But I want to go as deeply into the Olympics as humanly possible. I want to medal. I want to win. So whatever scenario it means where that can happen, that's where I'm leaning, Tafka. So I want to win. I want to win a medal. I want to see that happen. So that's the Q&A section of today. Jarrett, I have to cut the mid-show promo or the latter show promo and then get into all the news that's fit to print. So we'll be back at it tomorrow, yeah?
Sounds like a plan.
So before we get into the news of the day, time to catch up with our friends at Eliminize Service for odor-free, clean, fresh air. One place you need to go, and it is Eliminize. Eliminize.com. We'll get into the details in that in just a little bit. Eliminize Service deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. Eliminize Service has created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminize Service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process, makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers, kind to the environment, offering a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever, different than Febreze or our favorite masking agent, because that's why they call it a masking agent. When you go under the sink, spray the masking agent in the air, you're masking the odor. You're not attacking the problem all the way down to the molecule like our friends at Eliminize do. It's a proven scientific formula, pricing easy one of two ways, either by cubic feet or parts per million, to come up with a price that's affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, one place you need to go, it's the website. We mentioned that a little bit ago. ELIMINIZE.com, but do us a favor here at SDH. After the .com, go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world that you are contacting them from. So, Eliminize.com/Atlanta, Eliminize.com/Atlanta for odor-free, clean, fresh air. Eliminize Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH. Time to take a tour around the world, run through the papers and some of the other news that has occurred this morning. Cristiano Ronaldo could team up with Lionel Messi at PSG. This is courtesy of our friends at the Daily Mirror after handing in a transfer request, telling Manchester United he wants to leave before the end of the summer transfer window. More on PSG in just a bit. In demand, Lisandro Martinez has now pleaded with Ajax to grant him his wish to move to the Premier League. Arsenal and Manchester United are the ones chasing. Sevilla director of football Monchi has provided an update on the future of French defender Jules Koundé. Amid interest from Chelsea, he has confirmed there is interest from England, but says Barcelona's Xavi is also a fan. Other newspapers, once again we mentioned PSG, and they've confirmed Mauricio Pochettino's departure. Christophe Galtier unveiled as the new head coach. The contract for Pochettino was set to go for another year. No word on what the settlement is, or the buyout for Pochettino. As he is sent on his way, Christophe Galtier is now in. Chelsea considering a move for Cristiano Ronaldo as well, but whether Thomas Tuchel is keen on signing the forward, that's the big question, because it's Bowley and Tuchel determining the future with the personnel coming in for Chelsea here in 2022. According to The Athletic, Brentford are hopeful they'll complete the signing of Aaron Hickey from Bologna on a long-term deal in the next 48 hours, looking like something in the mid-20s when it comes to millions of pounds. AC Milan working on a deal to sign Hakim Ziyech. The Serie A champs currently discussing a loan deal with Chelsea. And did you see this in the Daily Star, by the way? Having to do with Qatar and the World Cup. And the Daily Star, as I had it written down in my notes and as something to discuss with Jarrett, but we'll go ahead and talk about it here. English fans who fork out £350 a night to stay in World Cup tents on a beach will not be able to drink beer because Qatar beach accommodation zones will be dry with only soft drinks available. First and foremost, if you've seen the stories, it looks like you're hopping into a yurt, and it's like spokes in a wheel, and you're paying £350 a night to basically be in a tent on the beach in Qatar. Yeesh. So, yeah, good luck with that one. Daily Telegraph, Todd Bowley once again checking with Thomas Tuchel on whether or not he wants to bid for Cristiano Ronaldo as the club attempts to wrap up a move for Raheem Sterling ahead of the departure for their U.S. tour. João Moutinho is signing a new contract at Wolves. That's a big move for Bruno Lage. Daily Record in lower divisions, Millwall, they're saddened and disappointed by Zach Lovelace's decision to join Rangers on a free. But the championship club says they hold no grudges against the 16-year-old despite their frustrations. Transfer news that has worked its way in this morning. More on Cristiano Ronaldo from our friends at Sky. Manchester United not sure whether Cristiano Ronaldo will fly out with the team on Friday for their preseason tour of Thailand and Australia. He has been at home, has not reported to training at Carrington. He's citing family reasons, and the clubs have accepted that as the answer. Cristiano Ronaldo has said he wants to close out his career competing for top honors and participating in Champions League. Was set to rejoin his teammates yesterday, but has been keeping fit at Portugal's training base for the past couple of days. Sky Sports News has been told Ronaldo's agent Jorge Mendes has been spending the last couple of weeks selling the, quote, Cristiano effect, end quote, to clubs, having compiled a dossier of the sponsorship availabilities and worth that Cristiano can give to a franchise. Bayern, Barca, and Napoli have also been engaged, while United insist Ronaldo is not for sale. If a proposal is good enough, then obviously it would be dumb for Manchester United not to listen. And preseason work from Eric Ten Hag. Tero Malacia is in. Looks like it's £13 million initially, with another possible 1.7 or to £2 million if certain markers are met. Christian Eriksen verbally committing to join as well. You've got Frankie de Jong with a basic agreement in place, advanced negotiations for Alessandro Martinez, Ajax forward Antony. So it could be a very busy summer for Manchester United. So, yes, the numbers from Feyenoord on Tero Malacia, £14.7 million for the left back. Manchester United confirming that this morning. The 22-year-old Netherlands international has signed a contract until June 2026 with the option to extend for a further year. Fits the profile, according to Sky, of a player Eric Ten Hag. Once at Old Trafford, shares an agency, HCM, with Frankie de Jong, one of the premier targets this summer for Manchester United. Richarlison set to arrive at Tottenham Hotspur away to begin preseason with Spurs tomorrow, understood to be flying into England later today. The latest signing in the deal from Everton could eventually be worth £60 million, unavailable for the club's season opener against Southampton after he was handed a one-match ban for throwing a flare while at Everton last season. The FA concluded their investigation after he scored his 46th-minute goal, throwing it back into the crowd. The flare landed on the pitch. He threw it back. FA concluded their investigation, and Richarlison got a one-game suspension and a £25,000 fine. Sky Sports' Michael Bridge on the latest with Steven Bergwijn on the proposed move from Tottenham to Ajax. The negotiation's gone on for a while. Ajax have wanted him since last January, and he scored those two stoppage-time goals. Ajax have valued Bergwijn at around £20 million. Tottenham think that's way too low for a player that has proved that he can play and do well in the Premier League. If he goes back to Holland, quoting Bridge, he'll be a much better player than the one who left the Eredivisie. Spurs are also monitoring the fact that Ajax have sold Sebastian Aller for around £35 million, might be selling more players to English sides over the next few weeks for £30 to £40 million, so wondering what it'll take to get Bergwijn. Looks like Leeds may have their answer on the Luis Sinisterra sweepstakes, probably somewhere in the mid-20 million range, £25 million range to bring him in from Feyenoord. Could be the long-term replacement for Rafinha, scoring 23 goals and 14 assists in all comps last season. Could be Feyenoord's highest ever sale if it comes to pass. Jesse Marsch looks like he's beaten Everton, Sevilla, and Nice to get the services of Sinisterra in for Leeds. You add Tyler Adams into that. You add Aronson into that. And Jesse Marsch is bringing in folks that he's really been looking at to bring in as a part of the list. So good news if you're a fan of Leeds. Luis Sinisterra looks like that one's close as well. Looking at Liga MX. Liga MX actually started their season this past weekend, the beginning of the Apertura. And some of the results, really the surprising result, was one of the first ones that occurred. You had a lot of the underdogs winning in the week one. You had Puebla winning at the Kraken 4-2 to start the season off. Toluca won at Necaxa as almost a plus 300. Cruz Azul won at Tigres as almost a plus 300, 3-2. Another one of the surprises, Chivas and Juarez, a goalless draw early on Saturday night. Another goalless draw, Club America and Atlas. Club America was listed as an early favorite at a minus 104 at kickoff on that one. Then you had Pumas and Xolos at a 1-1 draw. León beat Atlético San Luis as a road dog. That one was 2-1. Santos Laguna and Monterrey in an absolutely crazy match. That one finished at 4-3. Santos Laguna gets the win as a plus 208. And then the only favorite that won on the weekend was the one that happened on Monday Night Football. Pachuca at home knocks off Querétaro by the score of 2-0 as a minus 127. Everybody else that played in the first week of the Apertura was an underdog. Every other result was an underdog, north of plus 180. That was the only one that was just under plus 200, by the way. Everybody else, every other result, plus 200 or higher, except for the one home favorite in Pachuca that won on Monday night, and Club León that was a road dog by about 30 juice boxes on your action on Sunday. Week 2 of the Apertura, once again, 8, 9, and 10, and we'll get into that one as we get later in the week. CONCACAF W, you've been keeping an eye on that as well. The United States gets the win over Haiti, and that one was by the score of 3-0, but a lot of folks concerned about set pieces and set piece defending and the U.S. defense in general. U.S. beat Haiti 10-0 in the semifinals back in 1991. It was 3-0 this time around. You had a couple of goals on the board there. Bunny Shaw had an opportunity for Mexico in the other game in the nightcap. So Bunny Shaw and Jody Brown coming up big. The Reggae Girls upsetting Mexico by the score of 1-0. So that one has put Group A into a little bit of chaos as well. So U.S. wins 3-0, and the other one was the interesting one involving Mexico and Jamaica. So we'll keep an eye on Group A with Mexico getting the early loss in group play. And then there was one other story that I wanted to focus on before we went, and it has to do with Sierra Leone. And I know that we rarely talk about soccer in Sierra Leone outside of soccer over there, but what I wanted to do was bring up a story, and we've talked about goal difference before and how it has been a bit of a concern for some folks when it comes to all of the matches that occur in league play every once in a while. And according to our friends at the Telegraph, the Sierra Leone Football Association has launched an investigation into 2 First Division matches that finished with scorelines of 91-1 and 95-0, describing them as impractical results. The West African country's governing body, and this is courtesy of our friends at the Telegraph and Reuters, said it was investigating officials and players involved in 2 fixtures in which Gulf FC defeated Kokimba Lebanon 91-1 and Lumbembu United 95-0 beaten by Kahlua Rangers in the Eastern Regional Super 10 League. The Sierra Leone Football Association said it had zero tolerance for match manipulation or anything of the sort. They plan on investigating the Eastern Region Football Association, all officials designated to officiate both matches, as well as players and officials of all 4 teams, quoting the Sierra Leone Football Association at SLFA_SL on Twitters. The general public is therefore assured that the said matter will be thoroughly investigated. Anyone found culpable will face the full force of the law. If the scorelines stick, it would rank among the highest recorded in soccer history. According to the Telegraph, the highest is thought to have been in Madagascar in 2002. AS Adima beat Paso Lemirne 149-0. The S.O. Lemirne players, if I could get that right, man, it is a Tuesday, intentionally scored one own goal after another in protest over refereeing decisions with which they disagreed. So that's your news that has gone on this morning. And we will come back again tomorrow as well and keep you rolling here. It's Action at the Fraction on Wednesday night with Birmingham Legion visiting Atlanta United 2. So if you're anywhere close to Fifth Third Bank Stadium in Kennesaw, come out and visit. And the game will be on ESPN Plus, kickoff a little after 7:30. But obviously a lot of action going on. Midweek games in Major League Soccer as well, and we'll keep you posted on that as we continue to go. So for Jarrett, for Jason, for everybody here at SDH, I'm just John. Play it safe, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us here as we start another week at Soccer Down Here.